Bring Inner Greatness Out, Personal Brand, written and narrated by Dr. Mansur Hasib and produced by Tomorrow Strategy Today, LLC. The Fairy Duster. When we think of deserts, we think of sand, drought, and harsh conditions. Hardly a place for beautiful flowers with sweet nectar to attract butterflies and hummingbirds. Yet that is exactly what the beautiful fairy duster on the cover does. With her bright red flower clusters, stamens ornately shaped in the form of tiny dusters, and juicy nectar, she drives butterflies and hummingbirds wild with ecstasy. Her leaves resemble those of the sensitive plant, but you can touch her, and she will not wilt in apprehension, because she is confident in her greatness. She has adorned her stalks with very fine hair. You can touch her stalk as well, without hurting yourself. She generously teaches the smaller buds around her to bloom with similar efflorescence. Together, they will attract and sustain more hummingbirds and butterflies. We too can choose to be extraordinary, like the fairy duster, and be beacons of hope and inspiration for others. While we do not choose the circumstances of birth, we have the power to choose our destiny by building a unique and compelling personal brand to enhance our value and change the trajectory of our success. We can choose to solve our problems and harsh conditions so they lose prominence and fade into the background. We can welcome others to join our circle of greatness so everyone can enjoy a better life. We do not have to look for greatness outside because we're already born unique. In a world of several billion people, we are a supply of one. We must find the unique gifts we have inside, our likes and dislikes, things we can be good at, polish them, showcase them, and monetize them for multiple customers all over the world. All of a sudden, we cease to be a common flower and become the extraordinary and valuable flower that we are. That is what this book is about. Come with me on your journey to a lifetime of greatness. Chapter 1. Introduction. All of us are born unique and exceptional, yet too many of us spend a lifetime blending in and staying average. Society expects this from us. In pursuit of such mediocrity, we diminish our value and suppress the full monetary potential of our uniqueness and its accompanying greatness. We deny ourselves the happiness of living in our greatness. Choosing to embrace, refine, and flaunt our uniqueness and exceptionalism is far better. Living in our greatness is financially and emotionally more rewarding. Our education system isn't helping either. Even though no two students are alike, our educational system does not try to uncover and refine the unique talents of each student. Instead, standardized teaching to dubious testing standards reinforce mediocrity. We create additional testing and financial barriers for college admissions and perpetuate conditions that do not allow every student to get a fair chance. Remarkably talented people are forced to feel inadequate in this system. Their individuality atrophies, and they go through life without any chance of realizing their true potential. Instead of achieving greatness and living a life of fulfillment, they are cast aside as misfits. Even those who make it through find themselves fighting a lifetime of uncertainty and living on the edge of hunger and homelessness. Imagine a piece of iron worth a negligible amount of money. Would it make sense to simply wipe and clean it every now and then and keep it in that common state forever? Why not imagine all possible forms and shapes it could take? Imagine what happens when that piece of iron begins to refine, merges with other ingredients, and even suffers the blistering heat of a blacksmith's fire or the sharp cuts of a manufacturing machine. It transforms into a far more valuable and useful state of existence. Even in its unfinished state, when it combines with the right ingredients, it becomes more valuable in the form of steel. You too can achieve such transcendence. Every human has this potential. Do things because you can, not because you must. Continue to expand what you can do, and you will be amazed at your own prowess. This is the key to unlocking your value. Your expanding circles of people from various activities lead to more opportunities. Everyone is born knowing nothing. Everything is learned. There is no end to human learning or growth. Once distinction is achieved, you can flaunt this distinction and never refer to yourself as that original piece of iron, even if society or hiring managers still look at you that way. The accidental circumstances of our birth may create unique obstacles, but they never define our destiny. We must appreciate that no two people ever perform the same in any job. So the idea of anyone earning the same as the last person in any job is absurd. It is also absurd to peg a job to an arbitrary budget number or even a pay band. Pay must be proportional to the value produced. This is the fundamental promise of capitalism. Unfortunately, most people are unable to grasp or quantify their value. They are socialized into agreeing that it is okay for any company to maximize profits. Pay bands and budget-based compensation have been normalized. People do not realize that companies are taking advantage of them by monopolizing power, stifling true competition, and denying them their right to enjoy the rewards of their labor and innovation. It is time for value and profit producers to reclaim their power. That is the primary goal of this book, to empower you to find your greatness, refine it, quantify it, market it, promote it, flaunt it, and earn what you're truly entitled to earn. You know best what you can and cannot do. Your ability to do things is fluid and completely within your control. You can choose to have more control over your life, or you can choose to live according to the wishes of others. You can choose to let others determine your worth, or you can choose to define it yourself. You can choose to let others benefit from all the value and profits you create, or you can claim your fair share. You can choose to be yourself or fail in trying to be someone else. You can choose to be average, or you can choose to be great. Greatness is a choice. Greatness exists in all of us. You must search for it, find it, polish it, leverage it, package it, monetize it, and determine your success. This book shows you how. Go through this journey with me, and you will never be average again. You will find that existing in your greatness is soul-satisfying and a source of abundant happiness. Living your purpose will bring you far more happiness than making extraordinary levels of money doing something you do not enjoy. Non-monetary rewards will give you higher and longer-lasting value than monetary rewards. Living in your greatness will give you an unlimited supply of non-monetary rewards to go along with a comfortable flow of monetary rewards. Section 1.1. What happened to us? During the last 40 years, we have seen a steady decline in job security, retirement benefits, employee profit sharing, employee ownership, employee bargaining power, and healthcare benefits. We have seen a steady decline in real income, home ownership, access to higher education, and overall prosperity for most people. small businesses have been replaced with franchise powerhouses. Local culture and cuisine are vanishing. All cities are pockmarked by the same brands and signs. A small number of behemoth global corporations control job markets and the supply of goods and services. Real capitalistic competition has been replaced by monopoly and monopsony. The global pandemic of 2020 has exposed this harsh truth in more powerful ways than anything else could have. Despite the enormous size of total profits generated from the value produced by working people, their ability to enjoy the benefits of their own labor and success has declined dramatically. Like all previous downturns, the economic recession of 2020 is likely to result in a larger redistribution of wealth to the wealthy. While producers of profits, the workers, go into bankruptcy and homelessness, a small number of oligarchs swallow up foreclosed homes and assets and concentrate even greater wealth into fewer hands. Such concentration of power and income is justified as capitalism, and any effort to return the power to the individuals is mischaracterized and labeled as liberalism or socialism or even communism. Instead of worrying about simple labels, why not worry about what gives us better financial control over our own successes? Labels are usually used by people who wish to distract us into allowing them to perpetuate the status quo, which is overwhelmingly stacked against workers and value producers. The situation continues to worsen every day. The fundamental promise of capitalism is individual success. If we work hard, we will enjoy the fruits of our hard work. In the past, this promise enabled true capitalistic economies to enjoy high levels of innovation, productivity, and individual wealth. Anyone doing anything productive enjoyed a decent living and could support their families. Right now, a person's income is no longer proportional to their contribution to the profits and the value creation in an organization. Regardless of the profession anyone pursues, administrative people in positions of power disproportionately extract profits for themselves while leaving the producers of profits in a perpetual state of subsistence and uncertainty. Money has taken over elections. Layoffs are commonplace, and real power is not in the hands of value producers. Instead, they are in the hands of owners or executives hired by owners or boards. These disparities in power and income have permeated almost all types of organizations. Top executives in organizations do not even need to have subject matter expertise in the verticals they run. People with generic MBA degrees find themselves in top executive positions with no prior experiences in retail, education, energy, or healthcare. People with PhDs in English and similar unrelated fields, even without terminal degrees and no work experiences in complex new disciplines such as cybersecurity, are appointed as chief academic officers, vice provosts, deans, and chairs, frequently without competitive searches. Too many top-level people are hired because of who they know rather than what they know. When appointed, the first people they replace are the most qualified people for these jobs because they represent an existential threat to their own inadequacies. Sometimes the most qualified people leave because they find it difficult to work for unqualified executives. Such travesty results in reduced revenue for the organization, lower quality service for everyone, and serious damage to the profession. Executives in almost all organizations globally are using their power and authority to redistribute extraordinary proportions of profits and compensation to themselves. People who produce profits and value are so minimally compensated that they have difficulty affording basic food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare. Since most executives lack expertise in the verticals they lead, they resort to simple budget manipulation, spreadsheets, and cost management techniques to manage all types of organizations. They use generic marketing and high-pressure sales techniques to increase customers. They ignore investments in innovation and product quality. Instead, they protect market share by buying up competitors and by controlling supply through lobbying and funding politicians for favorable laws, regulations, and non-competitive allocation of contract work. Free market capitalism has been diminished and antitrust protections have eroded. This distortion is glossed over by pundits as the natural outcome of capitalism. This phenomenon is the exact opposite of capitalism. True capitalism enables people to earn in accordance with their contributions and not in accordance with their positions of power and authority. The result is economic apartheid. People with money use the power created through money to systematically prevent others from gaining money and associated power. They use financial power to redistribute more money to themselves by systematically funding elected policymakers who are financially beholden to them. In the meantime, the real producers of profits and value are scrambling to survive and teetering on the edge of homelessness and even death. Whether we think of them in terms of gender, race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation, such economic apartheid has kept every marginalized group suppressed. Ethical considerations which used to prevent such abuses of power have largely disappeared. Lying and cheating by people in positions of power and authority are condoned because they have not expressly been made illegal. We can debate the reasons why this decline happened, and we can try to use economic fairness arguments to make changes. We can organize, hold rallies, protests, sit-ins, or million-people marches. While these efforts may result in raising consciousness and make a few news headlines, at the end of the day, these efforts are largely ineffective, mainly because they rely on the actions of others. Protests have not resulted in any real change in the balance of power or the equitable distribution of the fruits of capitalistic hard work and innovation. In fact, sometimes these efforts have resulted in further tyranny and even violent suppression by the people in positions of power and authority. In most cases, lip service and vague promises are used to placate people. However, since these executives lack integrity and their promises have no credibility, real change has not happened. We can accept this as our fate. We can accept our disproportionate decline in income and power, or we can choose a different path, the path of our own greatness. Instead of focusing on macroeconomic issues or political problems that we have little chance of solving anytime soon, we can all focus on one thing that we have 100% control over, our own actions. While we cannot control the actions of others, we have complete control over our own actions and reactions. We must realize that we are the producers of value, and there is inherent power in the value we produce. Without the value we produce, no one can make profits. We need to think of ourselves as mini businesses and ourselves as the sole product. Just like a business, we need to develop as many customers and clients as possible. We need to create demand for the product. If we are the product for our businesses and there is only one of us, imagine the possibilities and the power of monopoly pricing. That is what a compelling personal brand will give you. every one of us needs to have a strong personal brand if we wish to profit from the value we produce. We can gain the power to determine our own income, job security, negotiating power, and overall prosperity and success. A compelling personal brand will increase your professional worth and provide you with tangible, permanent, and ever-increasing rates of return to your income stream. I invite you to take this journey with me. You must recognize that you are the value producer. You produce value while working at home or outside the home. You produce value while cooking a meal, gardening, vacuuming the carpet, or even changing diapers. You produce value even if no one is paying you for it. Your goal should be to get paid for as much of this value as possible from as many consumers as possible. This is how you can create multiple sources of income. Without you, organizations cannot produce value. They hire you to produce value. Essentially, they're buying the value you produce. Unfortunately, they then give you a small share while retaining the bulk of the value for themselves. They're buying the value you produce at a rock-bottom price. They use the power of monopsony in labor markets to pay you below market compensation. They act as though they are doing you a favor by giving you a job. However, given the global marketplace of buyers for your goods and services, is there any reason for you to sell all your value production services to a single employer? Your main goal should be to make sure you realize the full value potential of all things you can do. Why sell only one service or a few services to one employer? Instead, you should be selling all your goods and services to multiple buyers or employers. This is already happening and is most likely the future of work. Many current sources of power will disappear in the future world. What will not disappear is the human ability to produce value. Right now, banks use other people's money to make massive profits. Then they make poor loans and take on insane risks and then receive taxpayer bailouts because their demise will supposedly disrupt the economy. In true capitalism, unprofitable companies and executives should be replaced by profitable ones, not be propped up with the money from the very people they're exploiting. Ask yourself why you should suffer the business losses of a failing company. If they were too big to fail in the first place, why are they even bigger now? Why is taxpayer money going to companies and not directly to the people? Instead of the government giving taxpayer money to companies to keep people hired, why not pay the people directly? Like doctors who must submit bills to insurance companies, why not make companies that keep employees on the payroll submit a bill to the government? The American auto companies were saved by the taxpayers. So why didn't the taxpayers become owners of these companies? Why are we back in the same situation where these companies are losing money and laying off people? If you are bailing out a company, shouldn't you own the company as a cooperative? Shouldn't you be enjoying the profits from your investments in the bailed out company? The main problem is that individuals have not gained full control of their sources of power yet. They have handed it over to others. They trust others to do the right thing. They're enabling others to profit from their work without receiving their own fair share. In the old economy, unions used to recoup some power for workers and value producers. Now, even that minimal power has largely vanished. For decades, scholars have been giving away their works, doctoral dissertations, and other intellectual property to commercial databases, who then resell access to these works to educational institutions, libraries, and sometimes even the scholars themselves. In the past, due to lack of mass communication technology, this may have been a necessary evil for the distribution of the work. Right now, in the age of global connectivity, these arrangements make no sense. In the new world, individuals can claim back their sources of power and even increase them by expanding their markets and economic might globally. In a hyper-connected global economy, many new things are possible. Widespread adoption of new technologies, such as blockchain, may create a new type of economy within the next 10 years. Imagine a world where a taxi driver can charge the passenger directly for a ride without being forced to share anything with an intermediary who imparts minimal value, such as a semblance of trust, to the transaction. However, even that trust has often proved to be dubious. Thus, companies that own no cars and perform no work other than providing some technology can skim off massive profits from drivers who create the value. What if the driver could control their own technology or even lease it for a fee and have a reputation of trust? Imagine a world where everyone is a mini clearinghouse of multiple services. Imagine a world where multiple individual entrepreneurs are collectively or cooperatively providing services directly to the buyers. In such a world, the producers of value will get to keep most of the profits from the value they create. They will each become their own individual sources of power. Instead of meekly accepting a meager life being doled out to them by those in power, they would be able to focus on building richer lives using their own sources of power and influence fueled by compelling global personal brands. This book will guide you to such an empowering future. Section 1.2. Why build a personal brand? Your personal brand will provide the following 7 powerful benefits. 1. Increase value of your work. 2. Market your ideas better. 3. Develop your confidence and job security. 4. Gain better control of your career. 5. Create multiple sources of income. 6. Increase earnings. 7. Decouple your personal success from organizations. These benefits are discussed in much greater detail later in the book. During the July 22nd, 2020 episode of Conversations with Dr. Cybersecurity, my dear friend for over 2 decades, Celeste Stacy, captured the essence of my message in this powerful statement. People need to create their own economy. People need to take control of their income so they can control their outcome, she said. This book will help you do exactly that. Gain control of your income so you can determine your outcome.